Thank you. Each time I go for a conference, my favorite part of the conference is that I'll go home with a takeaway or a giveaway. Yeah. Right? So today, Richard has been very kind to give us these books. But I would like to ask to thank him the African way. Yes. Richard, this is just to thank you. Most of us would not buy this book, but because you've given it to us as a gift, we are going to utilize it and make sure that we apply the principles. And we'd like to thank you the African way. So, whatever it is. Thank you very much, Richard. Dr. Villa has just introduced another concept that I'd forgotten. We thank each other through our totems, and we've given you the totem morpho.
And we haven't paid attention to the time since we started, so 3 seconds. So we have a thank you for you two. And I don't have a dance or a song, so each one of you, these are tiles, is my attempt to art. And they represent our whole metaphor and symbol of water. So it's your horizon, and it's our gift from all of us, Growth River, so that you get a clear view of what this new star constellation that you're heading to is your new horizon. So we have one for each one of you.
Welcome you a bit. Once that done dancing. Let me welcome you after that done dancing.
Thank you for that. This is how we thank each other in Africa. So thank you very much. Richard would like to write a message in each of the books. So if you could just write your name on a piece of paper and put it in on the front page of the book, then I'll collect the books for him to sign, then I'll bring them back. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That was electric. We got to dance. Mariwa Kanaka. Is it Mariwa Kanaka? Oh, yes. Yes, that's interesting. And when we say thank you, it's tatenda. Oh, tatenda. That's the way that we are saying to him. And at this juncture, let us welcome Dr. Vuyiwe Tsako. She will be taking us on the importance of design thinking for organizational resilience and organizational design perspective. Let's welcome on stage again with the same energy that we've been singing. Let's welcome Dr. Vuyiwe on stage. Thank you.
Can you sing for me, please? Can you sing for me, please? I need that vibe. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Sanbonani, Moroi. I was told to say Moroi. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Okay. All right. Standing here in front of you, Dr. Vuyiwe Tsako. When you see me next year, don't be surprised when I say I'm Dr. Vuyiwe Mahamban. I just changed my surname recently. Culturally, there are certain things that you have to go through. I was once divorced, and then after that, my ex-husband passed away, so I had to change the surname back to my original surname. So I'll be Mahambana as from now going forward, because it's something that is recent. Okay, I'm from South Africa, originally from Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape is where you would see most Xhosa. This is Xhosa way, traditional attire. Okay. If I can go to the proper introduction, professionally, I'm a doctor of philosophy by profession or by qualification, currently busy with the second PhD. The presentation that I will be talking about is based on the second PhD. I hold 5 occupations. I'm a consultant, consulting on OD. I spoke about that one. I'm a research supervisor, supervising research students for vets and MENCOSA. I'm a board member appointed through SA Directors Association. What's the 4th one? I'm the executive. I have got one full-time one, executive for corporate services. And the last one, I have an NGO called Umthombo Wolwazi Research Institute, which is focusing on coaching and mentoring in research. So basically that is where I spend a lot of my time in. Fortunately, I had freedom of working for a very good employer who would allow you to do additional duties whilst you are the employee of that organization. Right, I will be speaking, my current organization, the one that has appointed me formally, is called Cross Border. Some of you might know it, Cross Border Roads Transport Agency. Right. I will be presenting part of my research work. It's not the full research work, which was focusing on conceptualizing organizational design thinking for organizational resilience, in support of organizational resilience, right? So this is the part that I've taken from my research, which speaks to the importance of design thinking for organizational resilience. And still I'm looking at an organizational design perspective. Before I zoom straight to the first part of my presentation, I just want to ask a few questions from the OD practitioners that are here. What happened to the operations during the time of COVID and lockdown? In your areas of work, what happened to the operations during the time of COVID and lockdown? If one person can just answer.
There was total shutdown.
There was total shutdown. And what happened to the operations within the organizations?
They ceased to operate.
Everything ceased to operate.
Employees stopped coming to work.
Yes,
And in most cases, there were no salaries
yes.
for the time spent during the lockdown measures.
And in some countries, there were salaries. In South Africa, we continued paying employees even though they were not at work, even though services were not offered. Right. Were there any services that were provided? And the answer is no. Most of the services were not provided. There were those that were prioritized, like your health services and the rest. Okay. What happened to the businesses, the private businesses? Most of them closed down, especially those that were owned by one man, the small businesses, and most of them still now have not recovered. Right. I want to come to the basis of my presentation. But if we can just have a look at what happened with some organizations during the time of lockdown, I want to paint another picture for you, because here we're talking of design thinking, which I believe that is a very important aspect. If you look at what happened with Netflix during the time of lockdown and COVID-19, it is said that during that time, Netflix had 26 million more subscribers. And mind you, within that space, it's not only Netflix that operates there. You have your Amazon videos, you have your DSTVs and the rest. And if you look today, Netflix has got about 200 million subscribers. Why? It's because of the fact that they have incorporated design thinking in terms of their operations. That is the reason. So in this research, I regard design thinking as a solution to a lot of things. But let's take a look and see what is design thinking. In my view, or according to the research, design thinking is about innovative solutions. It's about human-centered thinking, human-centered designs. It's about conducting research. It's about problem solving. It's about creative ideas as well as putting those ideas into action. That's all design thinking is all about. Manufacturing companies that are manufacturing products, some of them, they use design thinking as a key. Organizations that provide certain services, your banks, some of the banks in South Africa, they use design thinking when they plan for those services. So it means that design thinking is key in terms of how we want our operations to move and succeed within our organizations. I want to skip this one and look at these few quotes. The first one says, design thinking is neither art nor science nor religion. It is the capacity ultimately for integrative thinking. I want you to underline the word integrative thinking. Then the other one is saying it's a mindset of combining creative and analytical thinking. Now, another kind of thinking is coming up, which is creative and analytical thinking, and applying that towards what? Problem solving. And the other one is saying design thinking is a creative problem solving methodology that starts from understanding and addressing the human needs. Right. Now, if you look at these definitions or these quotes about design thinking, there are certain things that I want to highlight. It's clear that if you speak of design thinking, we are not talking of ordinary thinking. It's not about your ordinary thinking that maybe you exercise at home or amongst your family. It's about analytical thinking. It's about integrative thinking. It's about creative thinking. That is design thinking. It's not the normal way of thinking, because if you want to change your organization or whatever using the normal way of thinking, you won't be able to succeed. But if you change the way in which we are thinking and apply, for example, your analytical thinking, creative or integrative thinking, I'll come to those terms, meaning that there will be a change in terms of what we want to do. Here we're looking at thinking as an ordinary reasoning. That is thinking. In terms of analytical thinking, we are saying analytical thinkers have the ability to identify and define problems. And mind you, thinking is happening where? Within your mind. So meaning that you switch from the ordinary way of thinking and make sure that the way in which you think is problem orientated, is customer focused. They extract crucial information and develop workable solutions. And that is happening where? Here within your mind. Integrative thinking is the process of integrative intuition, reasoning, and imagination. And creative thinking includes process of innovative problem solving. So when it comes to design thinking, all those kinds of thinking are very important, are equally important. So meaning that we don't want the normal or same way of thinking that we're using on a regular basis when we speak of design thinking. I'll show you some few examples. Let's look at these diagrams. I want to start with the one that is written hairdresser at the bottom. It is clear that the person who was doing these two haircuts had a certain level of thinking that he has applied when he was doing these designs, because these are the designs. There's a certain level of thinking that has been put here when these people were doing these designs. It's not just a normal, it's not just a normal thinking that has been applied. Look at the dress, the design of a dress. There is a certain level of thinking that has been applied here, and you'll find out that all these levels of thinking are customer-centered. They are human-centered, they are problem-centered. So you won't get an ordinary thinker to make this kind of a dress. You won't get an ordinary person to make this kind of a dress. So it starts with thinking. You have to ideate whatever that you have thought of. You have to do a lot of research and all of that. Same as when the manufacturers manufacture a car. They don't just wake up and start to put the car together. There's a level of thinking that is involved, because you speak of design thinking. If you speak of design thinking, when you design, there's a level of thinking that is involved. That's why in some cases you'll spend a lot of money paying for a service or the product, all to find out that money is going to the wisdom of that person, not to the final product. When we do web design, there's a level of thinking that is involved in web designing. People who are webmasters, they don't just put together, that's why you'll see that the websites are different. There are those websites that would see that there's a lot of effort that has been put here. There's a lot of thinking that has been put behind this website. Same as when you design a house. As you could see from this house, that there has been a lot of thinking that was involved here. And all of these, as I've said, they involve customer-centered approach, because you have to understand the needs of the customer. You cannot design this dress without understanding what the customer wants. You cannot just do this haircut to anyone without understanding whether that person wants a haircut of this nature or what. Even when the person shows you the haircut that he or she wants, you have to embark on the process of thinking, of analytical thinking or creative thinking, to establish within your mind as to how best can I put this haircut. A person cannot just say to you that I want this haircut which have got a flower, and then you immediately run and do something. You won't make it. You have to think properly as to how can I better design this haircut so that it meets the needs of this person. Right. I want to go back to the design thinking approach. A lot of scholars regard it as a human-centered approach, which starts by understanding the user, combining all the research and observing where user problems exist, generating range of ideas, creative ideas. build accurate representations for range of ideas, running to the users and putting the vision into effect. So that is basically, in a nutshell, what design thinking is all about. And in the process of design thinking, there are certain steps that one has to follow, which in this regard, the purpose of this research, which I'm currently busy with, is to try and ensure that those steps are integrated in your organizational design process. The fact that we have what is referred to as organizational design, it means that the process of design involves or should involve the design thinking principles, because that is design, organizational design. If you go to any literature and check the meaning of design, you'll see all these elements being part of design, not even design thinking. All those elements involving issues of customer-centered ideas, prototype, and all of that. Meaning that there's no way that we can talk of organizational design without thinking of design principles, which in this case speaks to design thinking. So meaning that wherever we are, if we're saying when we design our structures, we have to make sure that we embark on a customer-centered approach or people-centered approach. Just imagine how our organizations would be. Because if we talk of people-centered approach, we would also take into consideration what members of communities want when you design your structures. In many times, the reason why we cannot respond to the needs of the community is because the way in which we are designed is not meant to respond to those needs of the community. During COVID, many organizations were found not to be able to bounce back because of how they were designed. The way in which they were designed, it was not making it possible for them to bounce back. So that's why they ended up closing the show. So it's important that when we do these organizational designs, we have the design thinking mind in place, which involves integrated thinking or even creative and analytical thinking. This is just to show an example of an organizational design. If you look at this organizational design, it's written geography-based. No one can just write, even the CEO of the organization cannot just write geography-based in an organizational design, all to find out there was no thinking behind. There was a level of thinking, there was a level of research behind where the CEO saw it is necessary that we separate our services or what we are doing according to the areas in order for us to reach the community that we want to reach. So that's why they ended up having what? The geography-based organizational design. And you would see, if you go below the CEO, there's North America, there's EMEA, there's South America. Looking at this, what is the first advantage? If a black swan might arrive in South America division, let's say this is a manufacturing company, then North America will be able to manufacture for South America. So sometimes when we create organizational designs, we think of positions, and what we do, we just thumbsuck. We just do the benchmarking, and then we post what is done by my neighbor next door. That is not what is required in terms of how design thinking should be done, meaning that there's a process that we have to follow before you can even put this structure. This is the end product. Before you can even put this structure in place. If I was an organizational designer, I would even charge my client for thinking only, just for thinking without putting this in place. Because this is simple, I can draw it using a pencil. This is simple, but the level of thinking that we have to go through it, the research that we have to done, the problem solving issues that we have to embark on, is what you should be charging your client for. And this is the last product. This one, this is the last product, this one. Okay. What principles one can gather from all that I've explained? Organizations should be designed to respond to the needs of the community, of the customers, and stakeholders at large. Currently, all over, we have got problems of service delivery. But we have organizations, we have employees, we have capacitated employees, but we're unable to deliver according to the requirements of the community. Meaning that the way in which we design those organizations, we don't embark on an integrative thinking approach or analytical thinking approach where we take into consideration the needs of those community members. Organizational designs are key in changing the status quo or in challenging the status quo within the community. And design thinking is a solution to improved communities, improved service delivery, and improved performance. Here, these are the examples of the organizations that are using design thinking as an approach in terms of their operations. I've made mention of Netflix. The other one is General Electric Healthcare, which is an example of a company that focuses on user centricity to improve their own product. Oral-B is one of them. Thank you. Oral-B is one of them. And also Uber Eats is one of those companies. Hence, I was making a comment to say initially, when there was lockdown, we never had any challenges about Netflix. We were all at home and when we were able to see all the channels, there was no change, there was no difference. Netflix continued as if there was no lockdown. So these are some of the organizations that we should be looking at in terms of seeing the best practices as to how they are doing their business. So in this research that I'm doing, I'm following a methodology that was proposed by Saunders, Louis, and Thornhill, which is called the research onion. So highlighted there in red is the approach in terms of the methodology. It's an interpretivism research, which is inductive in nature. And it's a case study. I'm focusing in a financial industry, which is Standard Bank in this case. It's a qualitative and cross-sectional research. This is the process that I'm following. It has got 3 phases. Your phase 1 is introduction, research methodology, 3 chapters of literature review, as well as theoretical framework. And then the second one is the case study and expert reviews. And the last one is conclusion and the recommendations. Currently, I'm starting with the second phase of my research, and I've already received some confirmations from the experts to review the conceptual framework. The possible outcomes of this research is the organizational design thinking framework, because what I'm looking at is to conceptualize that space, which will be a simple visual structure that helps organize the information and ideas of a problem so that one can work on it more effectively. It will be composed of relevant variables or themes, which shall be developed from research conducted and focus on an area that is relevant to possible solution directions for a problem. The variables will be turned into visual form so that it is easier for others to understand. And the framework will be compatible with any environment, most importantly, agile environments within business organizations, and support resilience when organizations are going through restructuring. So that is the last part of my presentation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Are we there? All right, thank you. We did sing for you. Hope you loved the song. That was a very impactful section, presentation from here on design thinking. Let us bring it to our own concept now, the design thinking in our communities. How do we apply it to solve the challenges that we face? Because I think it's a practical approach that we can use to solve the everyday challenges that we face. I remember where I come from, we use this concept of design thinking just to address problems that, we saw them happen every day. Maybe when after harvesting, or they didn't have harvesting machines, we've had to find a way to develop tools, simple handmade tools using this process. And then, it was easy for us to, to harvest all those maize, remove the seeds from the cob. So yeah, that's design thinking. And how do you approach, bringing it to the communities? Try any idea that you might have and bring it to your own idea. I think we learned so much from here. Are we going to have takeaways from here, from the presentation? I think we need to do justice as well on it. Not Doc. just to take some key takeaways from her presentation, just to hear from you. What did you learn? How do you embrace design thinking in your own, maybe your profession, the community that you come from, or your family? How do you embrace this concept of design thinking? We need to hear a bit from you, then we can proceed to the next section.
Thank you so much, Doc Tsako, for that very powerful presentation, and the fact that it's a reality that you are dealing with makes me think back home of an assignment that I have in my organization, where I've been asked to restructure the authority. But of course, it's embedded in the CEO's contract, but of course I'll have to work with them because of the role that I play as a strategic partner, HR. So just like last week, we went to Mutare for a strategic review workshop for 2024. So when we did that, we had to invite our honorable minister and stakeholders to come and give us their expectations in line with the IRBM that the government is applying. So they told us of their expectations, and then the issue is, having heard their expectations, I'm expected to come up with terms of reference that will talk to this assignment. Yeah, and then from there, of course, I'll have to look for a consultant to assist us with redesigning the authority. So I'd say, as a takeaway, I'm very happy that I got the chance to listen to this and I'm going to apply it. It's exactly because we're to call the operators, isn't it? I told you we are a regulator of the postal telecom sector. So we're to call the operators, the licensees that we deal with them, so that they come and give us what it is that they're expecting from the regulator. So when we restructure, we'll be having their requirements in mind. So thank you so much for this. You've actually halved my burden. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. So for me, my takeaway is this. I've used design thinking for designing and facilitating an international workshop with colleagues from America. And that was my first contact with it. And the way we approached it was exactly like she has described it, very integrative, analytic, thinking outside the box. So thank you for reminding me that I can actually even apply it in OD. I had not even thought about it from that point of view in terms of organizational design. I was thinking more of it in terms of process, not so much organizational structure, setup, and all this and all that. So thank you so much. I'm very, very encouraged and keen to get to learn more of your work, Doc. So it would be good if you can allow us to be involved somewhere with this kind of researches so that we can build on it as you are also developing your concepts. But thank you so much. That's very, very powerful.
For me, I first saw the concept of design thinking, I think 2 weeks ago on a LinkedIn call. So I didn't know what it was. So today I now know what design thinking is. Thank you very much, Doc.
Doc, thank you very much for your presentation, which was quite enlightening. The design thinking philosophy, I think, is the way to go, because you have said that you start off with the client, you start off with the customer, so that you then customize your thinking process to serve your customers or your clients. So for us, I think as a country, the government has introduced the innovation hubs at the learning institutions. Now the universities, the learning institutions have been challenged by the government to come up with the solutions that are sustainable to developing our communities. So at the end of the year, the institutions are going to be measured on the innovations that they would have come up with, so that at least it's no longer an education that is focused on the theory, but the education that seeks to come up with solutions. So design thinking, I think, is the way to go because it comes up with the solutions that are sustainable. For us as a local authority, we have realized that we were too centralized in the city of Harare. And we were very far from our customers. So the service delivery, we have taken it back to the communities. We are going to capacitate our district offices so that the clients will have all the services under one roof at their doorstep, close to them. They don't have to board a bus to go to townhouse, to go to Royal Martin for any services. They'll get the services in their comfort. So that is, I think, design thinking. It is actually called the decentralization program that is being propelled by our local authority. I think we are going to babysit it, capacitate it, so that will improve on service delivery. This is, I think, collaboration in terms of thinking, and I think we are moving together. So what you may need to do is just to tap a little bit from the Minister of Higher Education in terms of how Zimbabwe is doing it, in terms of the innovation hubs, and how the students are being challenged to think outside the box so that they come up with pragmatic solutions that are really empirical and giving solutions to the communities. So I think, thank you very much for your presentation, which was quite an eye-opener.
Do you have any more contributions?
I like this presentation particularly. One of the message, particularly for Zimbabweans, is to venture into entrepreneurship kind of mindsets. You will notice that our economy is now significantly informalized. So from a business point of view, I think the design concept is paramount. Right at the start of coming up with the idea of getting into any kind of business, because I think the thinking that goes into that nature of business then determine sustainability, because I think we have seen so many trials and errors. It's because there's no much design thinking behind it. So I think I liked that, and already I'm thinking about something. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for those comments on the. We have another one. Okay.
Doc, thank you very much. You have challenged me, an HR practitioner, when you talked about that organogram there. That's not a copy and paste. This is what normally happens. How are you doing it your side? Then you just take it, you put the boxes and you put people there. And in most cases, it's not functional. In most cases, it doesn't suit strategy, it causes problems. But I was asking myself and I was saying, this is something new that I really need to try. To really start by thinking about the other side, then design something that will fit into that environment. Yeah, it is something that has struck me. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Yes, we are done with the comments. All right.